So at least 60 Palestinians have been killed now in an Israeli strike on a five-story building where displaced Palestinians were said to be sheltering in northern Gaza. Now, that is according to Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry. The dead said to include a mother and her 5 children, some of them adults, and a second mother with her 6 children. 20 other people, at least, said to have been wounded. Well, a short while ago, I got the very latest from Jerusalem from our correspondent, Jordana Miller.
Well, we're hearing that the death toll, we're getting conflicting reports, anywhere from about 35 up to, as you said, 55. Nonetheless, this is an absolutely devastating strike carried out by the Israeli army on what looks like a residential building where hundreds were sheltering. We haven't seen a statement yet from the Israeli army, but we can really guess what it's going to say, which is that the Israeli army will likely say there were Hamas operatives holed up in this building and that they were, plotting and attacking Israeli troops. It is a deadly scene that has been repeated day after day after day, especially in the last 3 weeks since Israel went back to this part of the northern Gaza Strip, to Jabalia, the Jabalia refugee camp area, Beit Lahia, and it is heartbreaking. It is problematic, and it does not seem that at this stage of the war, which is now we're more than a year in, that the Israeli army hasn't really come up with a better way to try to get civilians out of these areas that they are going after, terrorists, Hamas terrorists. And the Palestinian people are paying a really, really steep price. And we see that again. Remember, the last couple of weeks, we've been focused on southern Lebanon. We've been focused on the expected, and then Israel's reprisal strikes in Iran. And the media hasn't been as laser focused on northern Gaza, but it is a desperate situation there. Not only is combat intensified to the levels that we saw in the beginning of the war, but there is less and less and less aid getting into this part of Gaza. I mean, dozens of trucks at best a day, instead of what was, before, 100 trucks, on a regular basis getting into northern Gaza. This is an area where there's still about 400,000 people, and they're not, they're desperate for food, they're desperate for medical supplies. And while Israel has tried to boost the levels a little bit, because we saw that letter that came from the United States signed by the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, threatening Israel essentially with an arms embargo unless they did something, even that little boost has not really made a significant difference. So this is an area that's now filled with combat, isolated, and not getting enough aid. And remember, it comes even as the hospital there is trying to deal with the dead and the injured. That hospital, Kamal Adwan Hospital, is itself reeling from an Israeli army raid over the weekend. So this is, really a disaster for the people of Gaza. What can you say? It's heartbreaking to look at these pictures.